What's the difference between education and indoctrination? The ability to question what the teacher is saying. We hear a lot about diversity in Western societies today. It's usually diversity that's got to do with race, gender, orientations, religion, that sort of thing. Identity markers that can be used to divide people up into groups in order to separate people from each other. But while racial and religious diversity is going up in our societies, viewpoint diversity is going down. Most people think that Westerners are getting more and more open-minded as time goes on. But the reality is the opposite. We're actually becoming more and more uniform in how we think in our societies. Viewpoint diversity is the range of opinions you'll find in a given group on any given topic. Now, it's perfectly normal for small groups and entire societies to have agreed upon values and beliefs that are part of the identity of that group. It's what makes groups come together and for the people in those groups to feel that they belong to something bigger than themselves. It's totally normal. In the classroom, however, lack of viewpoint diversity becomes dangerous. When teaching turns into ideological preaching, then teachers are abusing the trust that parents place in them to nurture their children. This type of ideological narrowness is often associated with religious schooling in the Western media, particularly with Christian schooling. I've worked in Christian schools though, and I can tell you I've seen exactly the opposite. Because Christian schools assert a set of beliefs, that prompts deeper and more philosophical conversations between students about deeper topics than I've ever seen in secular schools. Now that's been my experience anyway, and I've worked in both. Religious indoctrination, though, is possible. There are madrasas in many countries which are infamous for it. Along with religious indoctrination, though, is the widespread abuse in Western societies in particular of ideological indoctrination. Those of us in our middle years who remember the Cold War period can remember being told that communist countries were worse than our countries because we were free and they weren't. That over there, people couldn't question the government. But in the free world that we lived in, we had it better because government served the people. Now, it was a cool story. And it was mostly true for us back then, I guess. In totalitarian societies, government maintains its control over the citizens, mostly not with the threat of violence, but by ideological indoctrination. In the communist classroom, the party is always correct, comrade. Which brings us to what's going on in Western classrooms today. Unfortunately, in recent decades, we've also succumbed to a rising ideological uniformity. This has led to a radical loss of viewpoint diversity in Western classrooms and on Western campuses. In our case, though, it's not the doctrine of the party that cannot be questioned. It's the identity dogmas of wokeness. Now, the video I'm about to show you was part of a training program for daycare center owners in North Carolina in the USA. Check it out.
And the friend likes to ask the question, "Are you a boy or a girl?" And Mash answers, "I'm just a kid."
But kids can be boys or...
They can be boys or girls.
Or
Yeah.
Or maybe non-binary.
Yeah.
It was just like non-binary, yeah. That's just something that we know. And this is something, I mean, it's like, they're 4 and 5 years old and they just didn't make a big deal out of being a boy or a girl.
And I think it was a huge testament to how much we've been talking about it in the classroom that you never mentioned the term non-binary. It was a child who brought that up because it's constantly in conversation.
Now, the point of showing this is not to mock or humiliate the people in the video. That's not the point. This is about ideological indoctrination and how it's at work in our education system. 5-year-olds don't come up with the concept of being non-binary by themselves. And when you listen to the teacher at the end of the clip, she openly stated that they've been introducing this concept to their students, and then they ran the activity with the doll. It's not coming from parents or the community. It's coming from woke teachers who are presenting these radical and outlandish ideologies as normal and unquestionable to the children. If you get them when they're 5, they'll never question the party, comrades. This is not education. Educating young people is all about equipping them with the knowledge needed to ask the right questions. That's what identifies an educated person. It's not that they know all the right answers, but an educated person can ask the right questions. When you indoctrinate children, you create an environment in which they're prevented from questioning the viewpoint of the teacher. That's brainwashing, and it creates deranged and damaged individuals. Now, if you want to see what these damaged and hurt young people look like, go on TikTok. In fact, no, don't go on TikTok. But here's a snippet so you don't have to.
I'm just so frustrated. I'm so frustrated. I want to be treated and respected as a human being. And the job that I left prior to this actually did treat me like a human being. And I really didn't have issues being seen as a queer, non-binary person. And I was treated with respect. And I ended up quitting because I was being harassed by a very specific individual. And it basically made me want to unalive, if you know what I mean. And so I'm like, I leave one environment that was okay with my identity and didn't have an issue with that, but would treat me like shit. And then I go to a new job that seems to treat me pretty well. Obviously, I haven't really fleshed it out yet, but then can't open their eyes and figure out pronouns. They know I'm trans. No one has asked what my pronouns are once. What the fuck?
Again, the purpose here is not to shame, but this person is clearly not well. You know a tree by its fruit, and it's very clear that the identity dysphoria and accompanying resentment this young person feels is not helping them, and it's not serving their interests. Requiring other people to do your bidding for your own emotional safety is not a stable or healthy way to be. We cannot control others to conform to our ideology or our worldview. At least not in the free world, right? The woke teachers creating classroom environments hostile to critical inquiry and free thought think that they're doing a good thing. They themselves were indoctrinated during their schooling, and their ideology tells them that they are setting children free from societally imposed constraints. Now, be that as it may, they are abusing their power as teachers. There's a traditional saying in China, "The mountains are high, and the emperor is far away." The same can be said of the classroom. The classroom walls are high and the parents are far away. Parents are entrusting the care of their young to strangers in the belief that those people must be motivated by the child's best interest. What parents have to face, however, is that too many teachers aren't. Like religious fundamentalists, too many woke teachers get into the profession in order to spread their ideology to the younger generation. Now, we don't tolerate religious fundamentalism, or at least we shouldn't. As a Christian, I want all children to develop the robust faith that comes from challenging received truths. Now, we don't tolerate political extremism either. But for far too long, we've tolerated ideological extremism in classrooms. It's created a generation of very angry, broken souls. The kids are not okay.